Okay, we're live, Georgette, and having our issues. I'm going to send out another link. So, Venita, if you're out there, I thought I saw you. Let's look at your AOL account.
Hey, there she is.
Hi, ladies.
Hey,
You got
Venita.
in?
How you
How you?
doing?
Okay.
Okay.
Your hair looks very lovely. What's the occasion? For us?
Why not?
Okay. You look very
Okay.
pretty.
Oh, thank you very much, Venita.
I'm
You
sure.
too, yeah. Hey.
How you doing? This Carlton.
Uh,
Oh, hello, Carlton. How are you?
This is Dee.
Girlfriend.
Friend of the show.
Hi. I'm just having my usual technical difficulties. Hold on, let me try to get plugged in now.
Okay.
Is it hot there, G?
Well, it's not as hot as it was. We've been having some rain for the past couple of days. So it's a little cool, about 86. I think we're around there. So it's humid.
Yeah, that's what it is here. The humidity is 195%.
Ooh,
Yeah,
boy.
kill a small village of people, girl. I'm telling you.
Right.
So I had to air that. Thank
Benita,
God for central air, else we'd be at the cemetery. It's crazy.
Okay.
Benita, we
Okay.
are live already. I this is the third location I've been in within the last half hour
Oh.
in the same space. I'm out at Blueprint today,
Mm.
but I was having connection issues as I moved around to the different locations. So it seems like it's okay now, but
Okay.
you know how it is. So we're not going to
Listen,
have Randy tonight.
Okay. Oh.
Um, she, I don't know if you know, she started a new full-time job,
oh,
and
Oh.
so great. Had some things she needed to do for that, but she said she'll definitely be here next week, and she's moderating next week. And I also have reason to believe we're going to be favored with Farrah Tannis's company. Is that fair? No.
Okay.
Next week. Um, so, um, so for now, it's us, and Georgette said that Joel is trying to get in. Um, so I don't know what else I can do. I just sent him an email, and hopefully he'll get that soon. What Venita and I have experienced is sometimes there's a delay in the emails being sent or received.
Okay.
Um, so he may not have gotten it yet, but I did send it. Um, and there is a link on the event page um, at Google as well as at um, Facebook.
Hmm.
And I just this week set up a book group page at Facebook. So
Hmm.
I thought that Joel and I were Facebook friends, but when I tried to invite him to come to like the Facebook page, his
Hmm.
name did not come up. And that happens sometimes on Facebook. So
Yeah, that's true. They have a lot of control over our space, don't they?
yes, they do, as well as a lot of glitches.
True.
Um, so, so yeah. So for now, I think it's just as I have not heard from Labeeb this week, so I don't know, if he's trying to get in or not. Let me just check over on the event pages and see if there are any messages from anybody.
Sure. Because I was looking forward to Labeeb because he said he was going to do some studying
Yeah.
and
Oh,
come at
that's
us.
right.
Mhm.
That's right. He
Hmm.
did. He did. Hmm.
We'll assume he's still studying. He'll be here.
Okay. We'll be positive.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't see any messages anywhere from anybody. So, um,
Mm.
mm, so just us, and you know, that's always good with me. We are enough.
Okay. Okay.
um, but it's always interesting to me that um, so many people RSVP that they plan to come, um,
Mm.
and then they don't show up, and I can't really tell, if it's just that they didn't come or they couldn't get in.
Mm.
And I know with the launch, with the June 3rd session, there were like 100 people that RSVP'd yes,
Wow.
and it ended up just being me and Randy.
Oops.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, now we were definitely having technical issues that night, but I think as of last week, Venita, I think I really got it figured out with that link, that
Yeah.
that that I sent you tonight. So that's the one that I have posted um, on the event pages on both sites. So I don't know what else I can do. With that
Mm.
said, why don't we go on and get started, Georgette, because it's almost 6:45.
Okay. Well, we'll just pick up where we left off from last week here on chapter 6. A black woman's body was never hers alone. Ah. And we're about to read the section on page 2. More voices speak out against sexualized violence in southern jails. I think that's correct, right? We were,
Yeah, we
I
only
think
got
so.
through question one. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, Venita, would you like to read this section?
What page are we on?
We're on page 2, the bottom, number 5. Start at number 5.
Mm. Well, you know what? I didn't get my glasses.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
You
Number 2. Key point for chapter 5.
Yeah,
Betty.
chapter 6. They're the
What? I'm
July
sorry. Why am
15th. It's the notes from July 15th. What's the
Where are
document
my
called?
notes? I have them all in the folder here, and I don't seem to have those.
A black woman's body was never hers alone. You don't have it.
You don't have it? Okay.
No, actually, I do have the notes. Okay, here we go. 17th. Got my little folder here.
All right.
All right. No, I'm like,
You're
okay,
so
I
organized.
have them. All right, number 2. Now, which
No,
one was it?
number 5. Down
Page
here under
2.
page 2, number 5.
Oh, goodness, this is not the one either. What is going on?
They're the
Why don't you do
July
that one, Dad,
15th
and
notes.
I will find the proper
Okay,
note.
I'll go ahead and read it while
Cool.
you get them together. Okay. So number 5 says on June 6, 1963, Dorothy Height, president of the National Council of Negro Women, NCNW, and Jean Noble, president of Delta Sigma Theta, went on the popular New York City radio station WNEW to announce an exclusive report documenting the first-hand accounts of brutality and sexual abuse of civil rights activists demonstrating in the South. They spoke of the Freedom Riders who came to Jackson, Mississippi in the summer of 1961, who were arrested and held in the most feared prison in the South, Parchman Penitentiary. Herded with cattle prods into exam rooms, men and women were ordered to strip naked for thorough body searches. Prison guards used gloves dipped in Lysol to conduct rough, painful vaginal searches on the women in the group. Bessie Turner of Clarksdale, Mississippi, told SNCC officials about her false arrest and vicious flogging, including being made to pull off her underwear and expose herself to the officer. He took a leather strap and hit her between her legs and made her expose her breasts. It was dangerous to organize in rural areas. Black and white female activists were raped by attendants in Mississippi jails. The jails in southwestern Georgia were considered the worst. Black women and men were in constant danger of sexual abuse and humiliation at the hands of Southern police and prison officials. The Medical Community for Human Rights, who provided medical assistance during Freedom Summer, issued a report documenting the extreme sexual brutality of the police against the activists in Jackson, Mississippi, where men's testicles were hit with clubs, women's dresses pulled up, breasts fondled, and vaginal exams given in front of an oogling audience. On October 4, 1963, Dorothy Height, Shirley Smith of the National Women's Committee for Civil Rights, Polly Cohen of the Citizens Committee for Children in New York, and Dr. Dorothy Farabee of Howard University flew to Selma, Alabama to hear the testimonies of 65 young women who had been brutalized, threatened, and sexually assaulted in a Dallas County jail. Exposing these atrocities was the one thing these women's organizations could do as women, use their institutional voices as weapons in the war against white supremacy. And the question for this section is, sexual violence against women and children never seems to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Do you think there are elements of white supremacy that remain in operation in the justice system, and what, if anything, could remedy that? Okay.
Venita, I just sent notes to your email account. You heard me?
Yes, I think I have them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I definitely have them in front of me.
Is there white supremacy? Okay.
I have them.
Is there white supremacy in the justice system, huh? Oh, no.
Well.
Oh, no, of course not. No, I mean, it's riddled. It's riddled with white supremacy. I guess really the harder question is what can be done about it. I don't know. Let me read the question again.
Okay, sure.
Sexual violence against women and children never seems to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Do you think there are elements of white supremacy that remain in operation in the justice system, and what, if anything, could remedy that? Yes, definitely. There's white supremacy, as well as elements of patriarchy, I would say. And in the case of white supremacy, um, what we have seen really throughout this book um, is the belief on the part of white people that that black women are less than human beings, and really you can't rape them. We're such whores and prostitutes and Jezebels and all of that we just love sex so much um, that we can't be raped, and that no matter I hesitated because I was thinking about the story that we read. Um, was it this chapter? I don't remember if it was this chapter or the prior chapter where the old white man, where the wife
Yes, it's this
took the
chapter. Yes.
child up to the old. In this chapter, took the child up to the old man's bedroom. Little girl said Mr. So and so wants to wish you a happy birthday, and she left the child there and went back downstairs. And the little girl talked about his pasty old thing, which you can just
Hmm.
imagine what a disgusting sight that must have been.
Yes.
And and he proceeded to rape her. And I think he's one of the ones that was asking her, "Don't you like it? Didn't you like it?" Is that right, Georgette, or I may be
That is,
mixing up stories?
No, you
So,
are so correct. And when I read, and it was the way the author placed that anecdote in the story, it was it was really raw in comparison to the young lady describing how she had empowered herself by joining the movement. But whoa, how does a
yeah,
person overcome at 11 years old? She, what, the wife brought her over to babysit the granddaughter or whatever, the grandchild, and then
yes,
you are abused. So the wife is working hand in hand with her husband
yes,
to dehumanize this child,
yes,
as a sexual object. And then I
yeah,
think when when they gave the little girl $5, right?
yes,
And then she's walking out of the door, and the wife looks at her, and she's looking at the wife, and she knows she's
right,
wrong.
right, right.
you see,
But wait a minute, Venita. Hello, Joel and Labeeb. I'm glad you got in.
Hey.
Hello,
Um,
how you doing?
but I just want to restate the point that that wife could participate in that activity, and that nasty old man could participate in that activity because they had a genuine belief and have a genuine belief that black women and black girls cannot be raped, that we're not truly human beings experiencing pain in the same way that other human beings do. We're on the question right now, Joel and Labeeb, of whether or not there is continuing white supremacy in the justice system, and what can be done about it, on page 3.
Okay.
Um, so, and I was making the point that, yes, obviously there continues to be white supremacy as well as patriarchy, and that is why cases of rape generally don't get prosecuted in the way that they should. Um, so I think I'll stop there, Georgette.
Okay. Would anybody else like to chime in on this question?
Oh, yeah, I was looking at that question a little bit earlier, and of course it's white supremacy uh, is a part of it, but a lot of economics has a lot to do with it as well. Um, it kind of goes, way back to, the war on. They were talking about a big discussion going on today. I don't know the name of the organization out in Los Angeles, the largest Hispanic activist group they have in their convention out there this week, and they put a statistic on the board that that talked about minorities that were arrested by the ATF had targeted 91% of all their arrests is minorities. And I have a book here called Critical Issues in Crime and Justice, which says that even when women are being arrested for the same thing as men that's being arrested, they go in and they're arrested at a higher rate, which we often felt that it was a lot less. But the name of the book I said is called Critical Issues in Crime and Justice. So I think the gender factor and most definitely the social economic, the person being poor has a lot to do with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very powerful points.
Venita, you were going to say something before I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I just when I read that section in the chapter, it actually brought me to tears. I just started crying. I couldn't even read anymore. It was just sickening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these things happen all the time. It is not a new revelation, but it just never. I felt so sick inside. Because that's somebody's child. That could have been my daughter if I had one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was just so sick. I was just so sick about that. I don't know. You really have to try to collect yourself because you can start thinking a lot of craziness. It brings out so much emotion in you when you read and hear about those things. So I just get too emotional. It's not good for me. I start thinking all kinds of craziness.
Oh.
It just makes it hurt so bad. It just hurts.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we talk all the time about black people are asleep. Everybody's asleep, really, but to the extent that our concern is black people, so many of us are asleep. But we are asleep for all kinds of reasons. But one of the things is we are not allowing ourselves to feel the depth of emotion that I believe we need to be feeling about our history and our present situation. The other piece of this question is what can be done about it. And, nothing can be done about it while you're asleep.
Very true.
And we don't want to feel the emotion for I was having a very brief Facebook discussion today where one of my good Facebook buddies, Agi Tayemba, was asking, are there any leaders young that we see among young people on the cover of Masada or people. The point that I was trying to make was that we really have to have leadership in all areas, in every field of endeavor, not just the mass movement kinds of leaders that we used to have. But I don't know. Anyway, I kind of lost where I was going with this. So somebody else talk. Labeeb, I know you have something to say. What is it?
Okay.
Well, just to kind of tie together the thoughts that I heard from everybody here. I think we all agree that our present day situation, as serious and as traumatic as it is, has a history, and it has a history that's began really here in America with the slave trade and the making of the slave. When we were captured and brought here, we were a free people. We were a human people. We were a people who had a sense of self, a knowledge of self, a sense of family, and a knowledge of family, and a sense of community and knowledge of that community, and certain laws, if you will, or mores by which we all agreed upon and we all followed. And it was the slave making process that broke the human ties of dignity and self-respect and intelligence and protecting one another and living up to certain values. It was the slave making process that broke those ties. And that slave making process was a very brutal, make no mistake, a very brutal process by which black women were turned against black men were turned against black women. As time went on, lighter skinned blacks were turned against darker skinned blacks, and darker skinned blacks against lighter skinned blacks, and that whole dynamic, so that there was created an insecurity amongst ourselves, so that to this day we don't trust each other. To this day, we have a trauma about opening up about this process that made us who we are to this day. So we've been unable to engage seriously and continuously in a healing process. This is one of the points that were brought up. We are still living the trauma, because the conditions really that broke our humanity are still breaking our humanity today, and it starts very, very early in each of our lives. And unless we have we've been fortunate enough to have been born into a situation of protectiveness and love and intelligence, we virtually then have no protection against the greater factors that come into play very early in our lives. For example, if you have a mother, an expecting mother, who does not have knowledge of self and knowledge of health and so on and so forth, and doesn't have the means and the resources to properly care for herself, that she is now with child, then those factors adversely affect the child that she's about to give birth to. It increases the mortality rate. It increases the morbidity rate. And then if the child is born into let's just say, generally speaking, a poverty kind of a situation where, again, resources are limited, so on and so forth, then the child, the opportunity for that child to grow up healthy physically, emotionally, psychologically, and educationally also become limited or restricted. And then you now enter that child into a public school situation. 9 times out of 10, this is a situation, and that public school system is a part of that human breaking institution. Then that child is further not protected during a critical developmental period in that child's life. So, long story short, as we evolve in our lifetimes through the generations, virtually we've had no healing process to the trauma that was inflicted upon us initially under the slave making process, and then under Jim Crow, and then right up to this day, we haven't had a healing process. We haven't had an education process by which we can be made aware of who we are currently and how we became who we are, and we don't have an education process that tells us about who we were before we came into the hands of the wolves in which we're in today. So we're ill-equipped, and we're kept ill-equipped to deal effectively with our condition. So it's not a wonder that we're still stuck in it and looking around and wondering how we're going to get out of it. You see. And then as far as to Venita's point, I'll close with this. The trauma aspect that Venita so vividly expresses. Because we haven't received the healing, we don't know how to properly deal with our problems. So what we do is we project our problems onto our brother and onto our sister, and we don't even see our brother and our sister as such, but we see them as the nigger, excuse my language, and the bitch. We see them as the lowest creatures, subhuman, just the way the system of human breaking did to us and intended for us to carry it out through the generations. And I interject the little booklet, Willie Lynch. The Willie Lynch letter, The Making of the Slave. I refer to that because the intention in that human breaking process was to ensure through the generations that then we, the broken human beings, would continue the process of breaking each other. And we see that happening today with all the violence that's going on in the communities where we're in concentrated numbers, and in the families where we're turning on each other. You see, and that was the intention of the human breaking process, or the making of the slave process. So
I remembered my point just as soon as you started talking, Labeeb, and you said the word history, because the dialogue that I was referring to on Facebook, someone had said, was there anybody like a Gil Noble, and they didn't understand how we had lost the program. I don't think the program was national, but it was in New York. But it was a wonderful educational program hosted by Gil Noble for many decades, called Like It Is.
I tuned in every Sunday virtually without fail.
I did too for a lot of years, and after he passed, Simo Tap and James McIntosh. Simo Tap works on I think it's committee something for media images favorable to black people. And they put on a march outside of ABC to, I think they wanted Elambe Breath to be the new host, but to continue with the Like It Is name and in the Like It Is spirit. But ABC was not having it, and so they started a show called Here and Now.
If I may, that goes, right into a specific playbook that I've always heard of. My cohorts would say that, when there is if we're talking about the justice system and effective policing in our communities, and what can we do about white supremacy, if the American people would if they were looking for the bang for the buck, and we literally, I think, the numbers are something like, in the justice system, we spend anywhere from 600 to 800 billion dollars a year for a failed justice system. Now, if you look at the return on investment for something like that, and if you look at the corporatocracy and the industrialized prison system, so is it a?
But see, it's not a failed justice system.
Correct.
Joe, and that's
Michelle.
what I think we have to
Yeah,
understand. A lot of people are getting paid out of that bucket,
yeah,
for
I
one
understand.
thing.
Yeah, but for if you're looking at it from the standpoint of the citizen,
Right.
it's just like having insurance. You say, well, you ask someone, do you have good insurance? You say, yeah, I had insurance for 20 years. Well, have you used it? When you truly have to enter the justice system, you're going to find out that it's really something that may not work for you. You know what I mean? The justice system is supposed to be justice. It's supposed to work for the citizen. I'm not talking about the industrial complex. That's not what I'm talking about. So the question was, how can we change it? Well, I've and I was in a class that, we had a long debate about, criminal justice, the justice system, blah, 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 blah. And, and we had to come up with a hypothesis of what can we do to the justice system to make it work. Well, one of my theories had been is that, one, you have too many policing systems that are too different. Every town and hamlet that you go to, they have their own set of rules. They have their own procedures. Any Joe Blow can become a policeman. You have people that, now we're talking about women and children who are being victimized. You have policemen that have domestic violence. How can we have a person that carries a gun that have domestic violence? I was in the military. I remember in 2000. I don't want to take a long time. I remember in 2000, the military had a purge of every person that was in the military that had domestic violence. They lost their badge and they had to be retrained or kicked out. So you're looking at standards and ethics. What are the standards, the ethics, and the culture? What is the training that goes on in a police? My theory was, and my solution was, you had a minimum standard federally for anybody in any town, any municipal that wanted to be a policeman. They had to be trained in a federally standardized policing system. And then you go from there. They had a federal band pay grade. They wasn't federal, but they had a minimum standard. So if you had minimum standard of pay, you had minimum standard of training, and you had minimum standard of ethics that you, background checks and the whole 9 yards, the citizen would get a better policeman, or get a more
Yeah,
qualified policeman.
but Joe, we're not in Kansas anymore. We are dealing with a
But
really
but you
changed
said the question.
situation on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, but the thing about it, you said, what can we do about it?
Yeah,
I'm saying, yeah, that's what I'm saying. What can you do? You
yeah,
can't do anything about it unless you have a certain standard. You know what I mean?
right.
So the police system that you have now you're just like we said, the man in New York. You understand what I'm saying? They say, they're saying that, hey, that tactic they used was banned for 20 years. So what causes that? So you have another part of it called nepotism. So what can you do with the nepotism? I don't.
There was
Yeah.
another situation this week down in Florida, I think it was, with like a 67-year-old woman who tried to call the 911 to say somebody was trying to break in her house, and the police got there and they said they did a look around, and they didn't see anything, so they left. I think it was 11 hours later that her family showed up and found her sprawled out dead in her backyard, having been raped, neck broken, all kind of stuff. And the police department said, well, you know, we followed SOP. We did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. See, the SOP, the SOP that particular police station had, so my thing is, say, how can we have a better, what can we do about a white supremacist police force? First, you got to start with training. You know what I mean? I mean, if people are not trained properly, I already know the system. I'm not naive. I know the system that we have. I already know it. I'm a black man. I drive down the street every day. I already know that. But the question is, what can we do about it? We have to have more of us in the justice system. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people say, well, it's the only system that you have. You know what I mean? So what can you do to make it better? It starts with ethics. It starts with culture. It starts with black folk in our own community being snitches. You know what I mean? You tell. If somebody come in this neighborhood that I live in now, they don't supposed to be there. Me personally, I might stand with my gun in the doorway, but I call the police. You understand what I'm saying? You have to take responsibility for your particular street and your particular neighborhood. So those norms that we have that, we're not going to tell on somebody we see a strange car or we see a strange person or something happen, I think we have to start with ourselves. Is how we're going to have to
Well,
change.
yeah, but I mean, as Labeeb pointed out, though, the destruction of our culture has been so thorough,
and
so
systematic.
complete, so systematic, so effective that even having more black people in certain positions is certainly no guarantee that we are going to be treated with any higher level of humanity than any other white supremacist would do. And so we have to factor that in. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right, and I factor it in. I love the debate. I think is very helpful, and I factor that in with the same thing, the very same area that I'm sitting in South Carolina. I believe the slave, he toiled it, and he somehow made it as well. So this is our struggle that still yet continue. And I'm not preaching because I know y'all already know that. It's just something that we haven't gotten there yet, and we just have to continue to do it. I don't think that personally, I don't think the destruction of us have been as overplayed as they like to see it. Only thing I see is a lot of us on TV about a lot of bad things. I go to functions with thousands of people with a lot of black folk driving Bentleys and Rolls Royces and traveling and flying. So somebody somewhere is doing well, and I looked around me, I was like, wow, somebody is doing well. So I think that a lot of things that we see, what we see portrayed on TV is still what my brother was saying, is the perception that a lot of people aren't looking at. Because it looks like to me, the scramble to make us even look worse is more intense with the television.
Yeah.
So I think you have to look. I think you have to look. You have to look around you. You have to look around yourself, and you look around and you see, well, how many black folk are doing good, and how many. I'm a DJ. I've done hundreds of family reunions. I see the same makeup in the family reunions. I see the part of the family that's doing good. I see the family that's doing bad. I see the Army brother that's married to the Korean chick. I see the crazy uncle that's dancing crazy. You understand what I'm saying? But I still see the family structure, irregardless of what's going on in the family reunion. So do I sound optimistic about it? Yeah. I mean, it's been, but it's not as desolate as I think. Now, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's as bad as they would like for us to believe.
Yeah, let me just make one more point, and then I'm going to send it back to Georgette and remind Georgette that you have to tell us to shut up, or we never will.
Oh, but it was good. It was good. The bacon was good. It was good. Go ahead, Michelle.
You know, I just wanted to say somewhere along the line that I think it might have been a reaction to something that Labeeb said about anyway, I don't know. But my point is that it has never occurred to me that we could depend on white people or people that we identify as the cause of, you know, most of our problems. It has never occurred to me that we could look to them or rely on them for any level of assistance, reparations, apology, resource, you know, anything. Um, and so therefore it has always seemed clear to me that whatever progress we're going to make as a people is going to be incumbent upon us to do it for ourselves. But, you know, when somebody like a Bill Cosby says something along that line, it is not taken well.
Well, that's because Michelle, you know, that last part of your statement is because there are a number of us who have inculcated self-hatred. Again, which is one of the results of the breaking of the human being. When you are a human being, you love yourself. When you're a human being, you respect yourself. When you're a human being, you know yourself. So when those ties have been broken, you know, the opposite is in effect. One of the things you said, Michelle, regarding Bill Cosby, from what I understand, he had offered to put up some money to buy the rights to the Like It Is program, so as to make those presentations available to every public school, at least in New York City area, in the 5 boroughs, and to extend it nationally, because he was very clear in the value of the topics and discussions that Gil Noble had in the Like It Is program. To this day, I don't know.
Never heard that.
Yeah, I don't know of the success of that acquisition, but I do know that when Gil was in the hospital, it was put forward, and it was put forward to ABC. It was put forward to the Gil Noble family, and so on and so forth. The other thing, just real quick on what the brother said here about you know, the SOP, where the police departments are concerned. You know, I hear that, and I agree with that. You know, certainly that's an aspect to be looked at seriously. Who's a police officer, and what's the standard for how they were selected and became such? And then there also has to be, you know, a check and balance within that system that looks after when policing goes wrong, like in the case we have here in what was Staten Island just over the weekend, or not too long ago, last weekend, with the brother that was choked to death, kind of thing. So you know, those kind of procedures are in place. You know, however, we're still facing what we're facing on the street, which is, you know, black annihilation, high black incarceration, and so on and so forth. So we have to continue to look at, you know, how we're going to solve that problem. And I think that a big part of it is education of self, and then also education of the enemy, so that we may be able to identify the enemy as such and behave intelligently with regard to dealing with the enemy, which means we don't take the enemy as friend. So to your point, Michelle, we wouldn't be looking for, you said it yourself, we wouldn't be looking to our enemy for help. because we know that our help is not going to come from that corner. It would be like what Malcolm said: if you're in war, and then the general of the enemy's army is pinning medals on the general of your army, and you have to wonder what's the relationship between those two. They can't you cannot be friends with enemies. And I think that part of the reason why we look to white folks and to the white institutions for our help is because we fail to appreciate or fail to have a clear knowledge and acceptance of that knowledge that they are enemies, and the institutions that they set up to first of all put us in the condition that we're in, and then second of all to maintain the condition in which we're in. Those institutions are enemies to us. They're not friends to us.
I agree that enemies exist. I agree that some institutions, but I draw a caution when I look at a whole group of people as an enemy. For instance, I believe that the institutional programs that are in place as capitalism in its purest form is a bigger enemy to the American way for white, black, blue, or green than it is of the color of someone's skin. I believe in that. I don't
want to be mistaken. I'm sorry, brother. I don't want to be mistaken to make a blanket statement with regard to race.
Right.
I simply
go ahead.
I simply want to draw the correlation really that we cannot escape from, that they are, white folks are, as opposed to black folks, or as opposed to Native Americans, or as opposed to the Chinese, what have you. It's white folks who, out of their mindset, was germinated this idea of white supremacy. Okay, and really the premise of it, as Dr. Frances Cress Welsing discussed in great detail in her book, The ISIS Papers. The genesis of white supremacy is their fear of what Public Enemy calls the Black Planet. They understand that in genetic time, white folks would not be. They would be absorbed by the more dominant genetic trait that exists on this planet. There are more people on this planet that are non-white than there are white people. So if there were not a barrier, hang on a second, if there were not a barrier, be it a man-made barrier, an artificial barrier, if there were not a barrier to the natural process of things, in genetic time, white folks would be absorbed. Okay, and so the what do you want to call it? The natural instinct of a creature is self-preservation. So to stem the tide of their own annihilation, eventual annihilation, they erected artificial barriers to stem that tide, i.e. the ideology of white supremacy, i.e. the institution of slavery, i.e. the institutions of war, the institutions of incarceration and so on and so forth, the institution of poverty.
I think my main point with all of that is that sort of thinking, in my humble opinion, it totally misses the mark of capitalism. Capitalism don't care about none of that. It don't care about white people. It don't care about the bottom feeding white people that has this little race war. Let me get my point in. They care about only the dollar. Yeah, so the racism thing, like you said, and I agree, it is a distractor. It's the byproduct to keep the game rolling. But I always, and this is what, if you listen to what I always, what I do is that I want to know in this book that we're covering, I look at first, what is the social economic impact of everything that we talk about? Because if you look at the social economic impact of everything, why are people going to prison? Well, they're going to prison because there's a prison system based upon capitalism, not based upon rehabilitation. It's because somebody found out that they can make money off of it. So black people are caught up in it, brown people are caught up in it, and white folk are caught up in it. However, there is a racial component that we cannot deny, and we cannot deny that. But what is the bottom line of all of it? Pure capitalism. That's my only point. And that's
All
what
right.
I look at.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's 7:30.
Okay.
Let's move on.
My bad.
Well, we
Sorry,
enjoyed
Margaret.
that discourse. It's very enlightening, but we got to move on. Okay, sorry about that. So our next section here at the bottom of page 3 is the Cadillac Crowd and Wednesdays in Mississippi. Um, would someone like to read that section, or in the interest of time, should we just go ahead to the question?
No, I'd like somebody to read it, Georgette, just because, I'm creating a lot of videos out of our material
Okay,
here.
absolutely.
And so for anybody that may be listening after the fact. Venita, did you find your notes? You want to read that part? Is she with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
You lost it for a couple of minutes there, though.
I know. I saw you kind of going in and out.
Where are we? I kind of lost track.
Are you going to
Number 10?
In Wednesdays in Mississippi?
Yes, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to kind of move up because that's hard to see. In 1964, the leading club women of the NCNW and the YWCA, National Council of Catholic Women, and the National Council of Jewish Women, and the Church Women United, formed an interracial organization and sent teams of middle-class women to Mississippi in an effort to establish ties among white and black women, observe civil rights projects, and to bear witness to atrocities. They helped bring in outside resources and institutional attention. However, the team was not comfortable documenting the sexual abuse on the front line of the freedom struggle. This left black women still unprotected from sexual violence and their struggle against sexual discrimination ignored. National and international attention was given to the major civil rights campaigns, leaving the stories of sexual abuse and violence against women in southern jails in the shadows. Despite this failure, black women like Endesha Holland was able to gain a new sense of empowerment by pushing aside fears of white violence and joining the local movement.
It's ridiculous. It's like, okay, you know what? A whole porn. I'm not okay with that. You know?
At age 11, he was sexually assaulted at the hands of a white employer and his wife, learning much too early that black women's bodies belong to everyone. She lost herself for 7 years, but freedom movement that said she was somebody, and working for the SNCC helped her regain her humanity. In what ways do you think our comfort level prevents tangible success in many of the change movements that have occurred historically and today? A lot of stuff going on back there.
That's okay.
Want to repeat that question? Want me to
Yeah,
repeat it
go
for
ahead.
you?
Yes.
Yes, Venita.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
In what ways do you think our comfort level prevents tangible success in many of the change movements that have occurred historically and today?
Okay.
Well, that's funny. When Joel was talking about all the black folks that are doing well and driving BMWs
Yes, that 80s, honey.
and living
I
large.
was down in Panama City, Florida, man. I ain't never seen so many Beamers and I ain't never seen so many Beamers, Rolls Royce, Mercedes Benz. I saw a Maserati. I was like, it was like 99% black. Seabreeze gas customer. I'm like, well, you know, I had my Honda. I thought I was doing okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what it made me think about is these are not the folks that are going to
Exactly.
foment revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They got
the first thing I want to say in regards to that question there, I'm going more to the reading there. That I have to hold out a great deal of respect for black women for what they've had to encounter that's unique to them being women, and what they've had to sacrifice in the name of freedom fighting for all of us. Black men, black women, and the entire nation. I think
Thank
back.
you. On behalf of black women, I thank you.
Well, you're quite welcome. Your due is overdue. I think about the freedom bus rides, and that there were some young black women, of college age in some instances, who were willing, knowingly, were going in to risk their lives, and also to be jailed, and being in jail out there in the deep South, and away from even the city centers, is where these jails and prisons were, where they were sent. Very much susceptible to any manner of brutality and violation at the hands of these brutes, with virtually no counter. I think about what Fannie Lou Hamer described as her experience when she was just picked up in town, because she was identified as a supporter of Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, and she was jailed. And while she was jailed, she was brutally beaten and held down with the assistance of, I think, 2 black prisoners. Now, we may want to strike at the black prisoners who assisted, but we also have to understand that they were in a no-win situation. If you don't assist this white brute in brutalizing this black woman, we're going to take you out right here on the spot too. So, same thing with Emmett Till. From what I understand, his uncles were there when the white men came to the house to look for Emmett and take him away. So that being our situation, a terrible situation, our black women still decided to take a stand, and it's that kind of a yeah. Sorry,
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
However,
that's fine.
my question is, after all the brutality that black women have been through at the hands of white men,
and our own too.
Yes. Why do black men, or did they give them okay to commit the same brutalities against black women also?
No, Venita, I think I was going to allude to this.
And I'm talking about, we talking about historically, and we're talking about now.
Both.
Okay, you would think that after black men, and as fabulous as we are, and God knows we're the best thing that God ever put in this earth.
Yes.
Particularly black women.
Yes.
Okay? You would think, after witnessing the brutality and disrespect that we have been gotten from the white man, the black man. If you can't stand up for us, at least don't turn around and do the same thing that they're doing to us.
You're absolutely
for me.
You're absolutely right.
The historical part about it, because I have a husband for 31 years tomorrow.
Congratulations to you both.
And I have 2 sons. One is 37 and one is 26. God raised to be gentlemen.
Very good.
And my husband has never. Now, I'm not saying this a couple times. He probably thought, well, I like to choke her a little bit. But as long as that was a fleeting thought that I didn't hear, it's all good.
I'm sure.
Other than that, he calls me sweetheart, dear, Venita. You know, so, you know, and I'm going to the present time. We talk about the historical stuff. What's going on at
Venita, Joe, Labeeb just celebrated 25 years of marriage too, so don't make him respond for all black men. But let's hear what he has to say.
I'm not blanketing all black men, because my husband doesn't do that. However, there's enough black men out there that are doing the same thing that white men have done to black women. See, we don't stand a chance. We got the white men that feel as though they can do anything that they want to, anytime they want to. You got the white woman, well, oh my God, they have the magical everything. Then we got the black man that turns around and beats you down too. So who do we turn to but ourselves?
I'm going to put the camera on Labeeb for a minute, and I'll be right back.
Venita, you had alluded to that earlier, and I had wanted to simply say this. It's learned behavior. It's what it is. This is not to excuse it by any means, but it is to open a window of understanding of how that behavior is germinated. It's learned behavior, and we tend to learn as human beings. We come into this world learning from our environment and from the people and the things that are in our environment, our immediate environment. And then as our environment expands, we learn from the things and the people that are in that expanded environment. So, you know, it's just like, let me put it in blunt terms. You know, if a woman sleeps with a man that has a venereal disease, she's going to get that venereal disease. If she does not, she won't. So, and vice versa. So it's a learned behavior. So this is why I said earlier that we have to have an education about ourselves that is respecting of our humanity, and then we can unlearn or not perpetuate the negatives that we're talking about here, where you have you know, rape at the hands of your own blood relative or someone who looks like you, kind of thing. So that's it in a nutshell. My response.
Well, cool.
Well, I guess we'll keep it moving, huh?
Well, no, well, you know, if I may, the question: in what ways do you think our comfort level prevents tangible success in many of change movements that have occurred historically and today? And as our moderator, she alluded to before she left, you know, those people down in that I saw the Beamers and stuff with, you know, they're not going to be great change agents, or, you know, because their comfort level, you know what I mean? They're very comfortable at where they are. It kind of makes me go back to, you know, when you start talking about reporting. You know, we have, Georgette had sent me a great video with Jimmy Carter, President Carter, a call to action. And he is very good. You can go on YouTube. He's on several interviews. His new book that's out that talk about, I mean, these numbers, I'm going to use the word diabolical. The numbers of the abuse that's happening to women. He's saying there's 100,000 women that go into that are in the sex that have been sold in the United States that come to Atlanta every year. There's 800,000 sex slaves in the United States. In our generation, there were 100, and listen to this number. In his book, he said that in our generation, that there are 160 million women, girls, who have been murdered or missing today in a generation. 160 million. So when you talk about comfort level, he used two institutions. He used the institution which we all know about, the institution of colleges that don't even report rape to the authorities because they don't want to, their comfort level, they don't want to expose their institution. I'm talking about, this is a federal crime. So that's this being, you know, the rapes are being handled by some type of administrative tribunal. There's a very good article of a school up in New York that had a young lady with that. And the other institution is the United States military, which the military
I was just
has
going to say that. Yeah.
26,000 assaults. And mind you that half the assaults, sexual assaults, were men. That, you know, and the commanders, you know, not reporting it because their, you know, the comfort level in which they have, they want to make rank. So what the two institutions have together is that, you know, one president don't want to do the hard job of having rapes, saying that there are rapes on this particular college campus. And this is not just some geographical north-south. This is all over the country, that you do not report rape, a felony, to the law enforcement authorities, and it's okay, whether it be white girls, black girls, or whatever. And the United States military, which we're supposed to have the most stringent form of
Discipline.
legal system is in. I was in it for 22 years. They will court-martial you over 50 cents. Georgette was in too. I don't know if the rest of you was in. They're court-martial, but the same thing. So what that tells you, they don't value women. You know, they don't value. You know, they don't value women. They have lip service that we care about our women and children, but they don't.
Good
Thank
point,
you.
Joe. Good point.
Absolutely.
Georgette,
Oh,
what are we doing?
all right. Let's move on to the next section. Freedom Summer and White Hysteria, June 1964. This is page 4. Can I get a volunteer to read this section?
I don't have it in front of me, so
You don't?
I'm
Oh,
exempt, yes.
okay. Uh,
Voltaire is a Holland-born, Harvard-educated 26-year-old math whiz, came to Mississippi as a SNCC organizer in 1961, realizing that the local people remained vulnerable to physical violence and white retaliation. He and other SNCC leaders believed that only when white bodies were threatened would federal indifference fade, providing more protection for the activities and the Negroes who lived there. The summer project to recruit hundreds of northern white students to help register black Mississippi voters would bring the concern to the country because the people of the country don't identify with Negroes. After 3 years of murder and mayhem, the federal government finally responded by sending a crack team of FBI agents. White Mississippians braced themselves for what they considered a military and sexual invasion, having made interracial sex a centerpiece of their attack on the summer project itself. These northern students, who were characterized as sex-crazed, white, beatniks, and black rapists, were not familiar with Jim Crow and not concerned with helping maintain the state's white power structure. They were a threat to white supremacy in Mississippi and could exposed the white citizens' racist mindset to the world. Guns, ammunition, dynamite, 450 riot police armed with shotguns, dogs, tear gas, submachine guns, and 15,000-pound armored tanks were made ready to repel the interracial incumbent. The murders of Andrew Goodman, Michael Sewin, and James Chaney, 35 shootings, 65 cases of arson, over 1,000 movement people arrested, 80 activists beaten, and countless unreported uh, civil forms of personal abuse and sexual attacks helped to make summer of 1964 the most violent since Reconstruction. White women in the presence of black men, whether professional or romantic, presented the ultimate white supremacist nightmare, driving the blood, lust, and sense of an impotence of white segregationists to the new level. The hypocrisy of their fear and racial,
Amalgamation.
amalgamation was emphasized by the light-skinned products of their nightmare integration and challenged by black women's testimony on the realities of interracial sexual violence. Man, you erase all this here and you just put the Hispanic in there, we got the same damn thing all over again. In the summer of 1960, L.J. Loudon, a married white man, was convicted of raping a black teenager by a jury of his peers. The verdict was unprecedented. No white man had ever been given a death sentence for raping a black woman in the South. However, Circuit Judge Henry Lee Rogers insisted the jury reconsider and make the recommendation for mercy to save the infrastructure of white supremacists. Despite the letter of the law, the white man would never pay with his life for raping a black woman. In 1985 interview from PBS, the series Eye on the Prize, David Dennis, Mississippi Court Director during Freedom Summer, reflects that you cannot make a man change in his this country by speaking in foreign language. He does not understand what you are talking about. This country operates on violence. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Has anything changed in 2014? Why not? Oh, well. Well, no. Short answer. Short answer, no. I mean, I like to bring history alive because I always like to go to the border. That's where the attention is at now, where we got, hundreds of thousands of children that are fleeing from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Ecuador, and the other oil-infested BP, Exxon companies that we went down there and destroyed their democracy and made gangs and warlords. And now the children are on our borders, in which we have a law that was enacted in 2006 that said any child that comes to our shores escaping sexual abuse, that we will house them. That's the law. And now they're trying to change the law to send those babies back into harm's way. So I like to say that when we have a system that have a law, and we have our Hispanic brothers and sisters that are doing the same struggles and the same freedoms that we want, that we are in the same boat as, why is not the NAACP standing up for those people of color as well? So nothing has changed. Just change one brown person that is African American and make him Hispanic, and you got the same daggone thing.
I don't even know what the NAACP's mission is anymore. Do they have a mission?
No, they don't have a mission. The mission is.
I forgot what the mission was.
They don't have a mission. I'm not being facetious. That's why the president of the United States. That's why the president of the United States hasn't hadn't been to a national convention in about 5 or 6 years. You know, but you know that's for another conversation.
Yeah, it is. That's a long conversation.
True.
An eye for an
That's all I
eye.
got. That's all I got to say about that. So.
Yeah.
But we have children right here in the United States of America that are living in ghettos that are like Honduras, that's like El Salvador. They're trying to escape bullets and trying to escape a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So I don't. There's a lot of saving that needs to be going on. Because I don't know the last time one of you might have driven through a ghetto, but somewhere like you are in Honduras or Mexico, right here in the United States of America, and particularly down south. I've been down there a few times, and I've been through some neighborhoods, and I don't know where I am. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's just so big. It's big.
Yeah. An eye for an eye. I'm thinking about that expression, something about an eye for an eye leaves two people blind.
Right. That's it.
You know, and that's certainly true, but there is an issue of self-defense that I think always has to be factored in. I really don't think that we are going to create positive revolutionary change with violence, because to a large extent the enemy is really who we see in the mirror. And you know, I'm not gonna cry the blues at this point about what I have seen in my own family and community in terms of their reactions to me when I fell into poverty. But what it did make very clear to me is that if we killed every white person on earth, we still have to live with each other. You know, when we look at how we treat each other in our own communities, in this country, and around the world, we still have to live with each other. So I believe that the issue is about learning how to, I don't know if it's about reclaiming our humanity or developing something that we have never had anywhere on earth at any time. But I do think it is about learning how to be human beings, learning how to share this global space in a way that allows everyone to have their basic needs met. And if we can only respond to our challenges with violence, then the only thing we will have learned how to do is respond to our challenges with violence. We will not have learned how to talk to each other. We will not have learned how to respect each other. We will not have learned how to value each other. So, I'm done.
Very good point to end on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right then. Any last words from anybody?
I'm done.
Did everyone see the list of books that I uploaded?
No, I didn't.
No, I hadn't looked at it yet, but I'm going to.
Oh, you did see it though. Okay. So if you look either on our book group page that's on Facebook or our book group page that is on Google, you will find that I posted something that says download your free copy of the book list. And so that is so that we can really next week hammer out um, a list of 5 or 6 items that we can put on a survey so that we can vote about our next selection. I don't know if you were here, Joel or Labeeb, but the women decided that we do want to try to do another session, another book.
Okay.
And we talked about really wanting, Venita's son has said that he plans to join us. And he suggested that we do something around black male-female relationships or relationships, which I thought was a great idea. And as difficult as that subject is, I think it might be a breath of fresh air after all this talk about rape.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know.
If we get to that as a topic, I'm gonna bring along Smokey the Bear, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of forest fires. So.
Indeed.
Yeah, especially if Venita gets started. You're gonna have to cool her off.
Well, no, I don't mean to. I just find it very upsetting. And I even have women say to me that have daughters how they feel. But what makes you think, as a mother, that I feel any differently about my sons? You know? No, it's not okay. Same way a mother may feel about her daughter dating a guy that's not respectable, is not a gentleman, doesn't have self-respect, respect for women. I'm a mother that have an issue with that. No, it's not acceptable with my son.
Absolutely.
When my first son's married, he has a fabulous wife, and he's 37, been married for 6 years, known each forever. But even telling Danielle, which is my daughter-in-law, you know, my son is a fabulous man, educated, gentleman, you name it. But you never know. He might one day lose his mind temporarily. I told Danielle, as my daughter-in-law, if he was to ever get a twinkle in his eye, just a twinkle, indicated that that fool was about ready to lose his mind, call me and then dial 911. And hopefully, all the Boston finest will get there before I do. Me and my husband. Because I did not have my sons disrespect a woman. And I feel very strongly about that. We don't do that.
Well, we talk about bringing your younger unmarried son into the book group.
Well, no, Clint will tell you that the daily routine, you do not have children where you're not going to be. If a woman gets pregnant, you own her. So you better make sure you want her for life, because she's yours. You understand what I'm saying?
All right.
You understand what I'm saying?
All right.
I'm calling Smokey now.
You better.
Listen to you.
All right.
Joel, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Joel? Yeah, he's there.
I have to make sure you're still with us, because, you know, you get kind of quiet over there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Never enter a battle that you can't win. So.
All right. Well, Georgette, thank you so much for carrying us through 2 weeks of Chapter 6. We're going to move on to Chapter 7 next week. Randy will be here to moderate that session. And we hope to be graced with the presence of Farah Tanis, the Executive Director of Black Women's Blueprint, who assures me that she will be here next week. And if she is, that'll be really a fun thing for all of you, I'm sure. In the meantime, please download your copy of the book list. You don't have to choose a book from the list, you know, it's just there as an option. But come to next week's meeting with 1 or 2 books that you would like to put on the list for us to vote on. Okay? All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful.
Good night.
Absolutely. Everyone have a nice evening.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All righty.